Good morning, Delaware. What a beautiful morning driving in this morning. There was a little fog. It was just lifting as I kind of hit the Delaware City line. The sun came out. It was just gorgeous. What a nice morning.
Yes, it's a perfect day for a garage sale.
Well, is somebody we know having a garage sale today?
Somebody who lives in Carson Farms, and you'll see the signs if you drive by, might be having a garage sale today.
Well, I hope that you sell everything you're trying to get rid of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope so as well.
And we've got Gage Tellis on the board. Hey, Gage, how you doing?
Happy Friday. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning for that. It's going to be a good one. A nice weekend. And we're going to talk about what we're doing tomorrow.
Yes.
In the second half of the show, we're going to talk about our big joust. Mm-hmm. So joust, stay tuned.
Oh, wow.
It's not the last of the puns, I can guarantee you that.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Yeah, but you're a lucky listener if you're tuning in right now live today, Friday, because if you catch this on the Sunday replay or the Monday podcast, you missed it.
Yep, tough luck. But we'll probably record it so you can probably go back and watch
Oh, my goodness, yes. There will be a highlight reel, I have been told.
And probably a blooper reel.
I could imagine so.
I hope it's not, well, never mind. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show. So, what have you been reading or listening to or binging on or whatever?
I have a very interesting book for us today.
Oh.
Does the name Dorothea Puente ring any bells to either of you, Gage or George?
Dorothea Puente. Nope. Doesn't mean anything to me.
She is California's most notorious serial killer.
Really?
Yes. Now,
more so than like the Zodiac Killer or the Bay Area.
Well, I mean, she might not be as well known, and her MO might be a little bit different, but she's pretty
bloodthirsty?
Yeah. So Dorothea Puente, she is a convicted serial killer. So in the 80s in Sacramento, California, she ran a kind of a boarding house for the mentally ill, the elderly who just didn't really have all their senses about them. And she kind of brought them into her home and said that they could stay in her home, and as payment, she would cash their Social Security checks for them. Mm-hmm. Forever. Yes. Well, so she basically, that is kind of her MO. She would go out and she would befriend elderly individuals who were either collecting Social Security, on the verge of collecting Social Security. She would invite them to her boarding home, and she might take care of them. In fact, one of her individuals who she was involved with, she was actually involved with romantically for a bit. Until she wasn't anymore. And then of course she would murder them. However, the thing that she did with their bodies was probably the most disturbing, as she would just drag them down, maybe into her basement for a little bit, and then drag them out into her yard and then bury them in her garden.
Oh my God.
And
Joyce is going to open a week from tonight in Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, there you go.
Which is about two old ladies who poison elderly men.
Yes, there's poison involved.
Oh, my God.
Maybe Arsenic and Old Lace were, maybe she was influenced by them, yeah.
I certainly hope not, considering I'm an elderly man.
So her total count that she was convicted for is 9 confirmed murders and 6 unconfirmed. And so, they have the nicknames.
And the prize roses from her garden.
And the roses from the garden, indeed. Their nickname is the Death House Landlady,
wow.
The Granny, the Granny serial killer. It's a really, really fascinating story. The reason why I stumbled upon it is because, I don't know, one night I was just like Roku, I was on my TV, it was telling me things that it thinks that I should watch, and I didn't know that there was Roku original programming, and I was like, oh, what's on the Roku original programming? And it's junk. But there was a show, there was a show called Murder House Rehab.
Murder House Rehab.
And it's exactly what you think it is,
God.
Which is places where terrible murders have taken place in a house, and then a new family has moved into that house, and now they want to rehab it. And so it's a cross between true crime and DIY HGTV. And sure enough, the episode that I watched was all about Miss Puente and nice, very nice couple who currently live in her home, who really just kind of want to give, shall I say, new life to their outdoor area. And it's not a big plot of land. I mean, it's Sacramento, California. So these houses are tall and deep, but not very wide. The plot of land maybe has 10 feet wide by 30 feet deep, and that's where the bodies were. And they just wanted to. So that was what the murder house rehab people came and did on the show. So that's how I found about Dorothea Puente. How does it tie back to a book? I can get us there.
I had no doubt. I was just following the journey.
The book that is the true story of a diabolical female serial killer, written by Carla Norton, is called Disturbed Ground.
That would have been a good name for the TV show.
I know, right? Disturbed Ground, yeah. So it's called Disturbed Ground. It's a book by Carla Norton. It tells the story of Dorothea Puente. We have one copy available in our entire CLC, so I don't know if that means that it's not a great story. I haven't read it yet. I have only done my internet research and my Roku original research. But if you want to read the story of Dorothea Puente, you can check out Disturbed Ground.
Well, that sounds really interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah, wow. But, just so funny because that really is the story of Arsenic and Old Lace. Except that there's another serial killer who gets involved. And
she got away with it.
And it's all a comedy, actually,
I mean, kind of.
For Arsenic and Old Lace. That's not a comedy when you actually are doing In the Old Men. But
no, yes.
Ooh, so... Well, mine's completely different.
Okay, there we go.
And for a lot of reasons. One is I almost never do children's books. But the other day, I was looking at the staff picks, and CJ, one of our people in circulation, had put out this picture book called The Librarian Stories. And it was written by, it came out in 2002, so it's a new book, written by Lucy Falcone or Falcone, I'm not sure which, Falcone, and illustrated by Anna Wilson. Now, Lucy Falcone is a Canadian writer. She's written for children's television. There's a series up there called The Littlest Hobo I remember the original version of that when I was a kid. It was brought back in the 80s. She wrote for that. She also wrote for Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Ooh, that's a good show. My generation.
Yep.
Is it your generation, Gage?
Meh.
No. Past your time.
She's also written 4 spooky novels for tweens. Anna Wilson, who is the illustrator, is not the star basketball player for the NCAA champion Stanford Cardinals. Instead, this Anna is a freelance designer, and this is her first picture book. I hope it won't be her last, because
yes,
it's really good. The Librarian Story it's a haunting story. It's very simply told, but even though it's a picture book, I would not recommend this as a bedtime read aloud.
Oh, okay.
It's really pretty grim through most of it. The book opens with a few happy pictures of this young boy's life in a small town. It's a town where the library sits right in the middle of the town square, and we see that it's the boy's birthday. He's blowing out his birthday candles, and there's balloons. Then all of a sudden, razor wire, troops, and cannons appear. And the opening splash illustration is of the town's library being smashed by a bomb.
No.
By a shell. And it's depicted as the rubble of the library, but this torrent of, it looks like snow or graffiti, but you realize it's letters.
No.
And pieces of paper from the library coming down after it's been bombed. And then the story is told from the boy's point of view. He tells this story of living in a town where everyone is scared, where things that one always took for granted, like food and water, are really scarce. They're hard to find. People have to stand in long lines to get them. There's no electricity, and the streets are cluttered with this rubble. In the midst of all this deprivation, though, a familiar figure appears right in the middle of the town square again. The village librarian is reading a story on a bench that's still there in front of the rubble of the bombed-out library.
Ooh.
At first, the people think she's nuts. Why would she be doing this? Why would she be wasting time with stories when there's all this deprivation and destruction? But she shows up every afternoon reading stories to anyone who'll listen, even when the tanks roll through the square. And when the soldiers come through, she's not there, but as soon as they're gone, she's back. She shows up every afternoon reading to anyone who'll listen, and then slowly more people start to stay and listen. They stand on their balconies overlooking the square. They stand by slightly open windows so she can hear what she's saying. And as slowly as life starts to return to normal, you see this normality reflected in the illustrations by the fact that the library reopens. So the story is beautifully rendered. It's told from this young narrator's point of view, and it's very simple and moving, and it's true to the way a 7-year-old would tell the story. And I know he's 7 because that's how many candles were on his cake in the very early illustration. Mm-hmm. But the pictures convey the fears and the sadness of the people, but also by the book's end, their hope for the future. Mm-hmm. Like I say, I can't see this. I'm trying to figure out what the real audience for this book is.
Yeah, that's hard.
But the author says the book was inspired by the story of the cellist of Sarajevo, and that's the true story of a cellist who played for 22 days in a bombed-out bakery in Sarajevo where 22 people were killed. So he played for 22 days to memorialize them. The war in Bosnia was marked by the deliberate bombing of the library there to help kind of obliterate the culture of this embattled people. Mm. But the trick with this book is the village could be anywhere. It could be Northern Ireland during the Troubles. It could be Beirut in the 1980s. It could be in Syria or Kabul or Mogadishu. So it's the kind of a universal story of civil war and unrest. But of course, as a librarian, I cherish the idea that the stories can save us, that they define us and give us meaning. So I was reminded of there's a group within the American Library Association, the Black Caucus, and they've done conferences where their theme is culture keepers. Mm-hmm. And I really love that idea. So, but like I said, other than librarians and storytellers, I'm not sure who the intended audience for this book is, but there's enough of us out there that I think we can at least help it be successful.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you, CJ, for your suggestion. This was a great staff pick. I really recommend people take a look at the staff picks because no matter what you're interested in, there's probably somebody at the library who's also interested in that and can direct you to some pretty interesting books. So, yeah. Anyway, we are going to come back in a few minutes and talk about the Joust that's coming up tomorrow, June 5th. And so please stay tuned. Welcome back to Off the Shelf. I'm really looking forward to a nice day tomorrow, but 85 is a little hot to be wearing our Renaissance Fair costumes for the Joust.
Yes. Yes. So why, George, would you be wearing Renaissance costumes in 85-degree weather in Ohio?
Because I'm slightly out of my mind. Because I have a wife who's made these beautiful costumes, and we only get to haul them out about once a year.
Yep.
And because of the fact that we are doing our medieval fair tomorrow.
Yay.
Yes. So we are going to talk a little bit about this. We've done the medieval fair for the library for at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Because we have people who are really interested in this, and we have a staff member who is with the group Knights of the Rose, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And so we've been doing this at Ostrander. We've had kind of a mini run fair for anybody who just wanted to come and see some of the crafts, the arts, and the jousting. COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into that last year. This year, we didn't know what was going to happen because it takes a long time to plan this, get around everybody's schedule and everything. Mm-hmm. So what we decided to do was we would do this joust remotely and do it virtually, but do it live on Facebook so that you get the excitement of having it like any other live sporting event. But we can also record it so you can go back and watch it later.
Yeah.
So thanks to Wild Bill Productions, who is going to be doing our tech side. Talk a little bit about what we're actually going to see tomorrow.
You know, it's really amazing. We had no idea, right, what we were going to get into this year. But we still gave ourselves a little bit of a budget because we still wanted to be able to make something happen. And so when we had to make the call, ultimately, that it was going to be virtual today because this is the beginning of the summer. And like I mentioned last week, we're planning for these kinds of things in January and February. We have no idea what June looks like. We decided what we could do is we could take that little bit of budget and we could invest it in some really good tech. In some really good production quality. So we called up our friend Wild Bill Productions, and he, if you know Bill Reynolds, he does great work. He has big visions, big dreams, and a big personality. I mean, he's just one of a kind. And he was like, this is great. What Bill does professionally is he's a videographer, and he has been streaming sports in like Marysville, Delaware, Union County. He has been streaming like lacrosse and football and everything like that. And he's not just holding up a camera and putting it on a stream and moving it back and forth. He's got, multi-views. He's got, an overhead kind of wide shot. He's going to have one camera on one end of the joust and one camera on the other end of the joust. So you can actually like switch camera angles and see the horses going immediately toward each other. He's going to have another camera off to the side that young Squire is going to be kind of an MC for the event. We might even, in between events of the joust, we might even have some interviews off camera, even have some or off to the side, off the main stage, and we might even have some opportunity to even show like how a knight would get fully suited up. So that is what you will see on Saturday, June 5th at 2 p.m. You can find the information on our Facebook page, on our Delaware Library site. The stream is actually going live onto YouTube, but we're going to be able to take that stream and we'll be able to put it everywhere.
Live on YouTube. I was saying it was going to be on our Facebook channel.
We'll have the event up on Facebook and it'll still get you there.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
So everything's connected.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
so,
it'll all get you there.
So we've been doing this at Ostrander in the past, and we had a very narrow alley where we could do this, so the horses couldn't get up to speed or anything. This is not true about where we're going to do it tomorrow.
Right. So with a big thank you to Cashman's, which is up on 42. They're a horse barn and feed outlet. They have an arena. They have a beautiful, big, wide open field. And they have a nice kind of, I don't know what the proper term for it is, but the area where the horses will actually be jousting. Cashman's has given us that space, and we're so grateful for them to do that. So the Knights of the Rose will be bringing their horses and all their equipment and everything like that to Cashman's, and they will be setting up, and they will be able to do a full joust. And so that means two horses, opposite ends of the spectrum, get up to speed as much as they want. They will be doing what I have been told is called a soft joust.
Right.
So they are not trying to get it to hit each other off of their horses, but they are going to be hitting each other's shields. Mm-hmm. And so they are going to be hitting each other's shields, and so they're going to be going for the hit at full speed, and then they're going to keep on going beyond that. And I guess there's enough room to actually kind of get them to slow down and canter.
So that's one event. There also do other events during it where they're not actually doing the joust. They have all sorts of games like trying to put their spear through a ring. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever tried to like pull a ring on a merry-go-round, you know how difficult it is to do things when you're moving like that.
Right.
So when we've seen that before at the medieval fairs at Ostrander, it's quite a skill to be able to do that. I mean, you're talking about trying to do this. I've tried throwing, my money into a toll booth basket, and come on,
yes.
It's not easy. So.
Oh man, yes, that is very true. The games, the medieval games, is a whole other aspect of this of the show that we're going to be putting on tomorrow. The games will include, like you said, the kind of ring spearing. There is also a jouster, a knight, who is very skilled at slicing an apple off of a head. Now, I don't know if they'll be taking volunteers from the audience, George, and Joyce, but I do believe that there is going to be some audience participation. Now, as we mentioned, this is virtual, so we are inviting everyone to watch it live virtually, but we will have some of our library staff who are traditionally participating in the medieval fair there on site in costume.
Exactly. This is not open to the public. We promised the Cashman family that we were not going to flood them with a couple of hundred people stomping on their grounds. But so just please watch it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And enjoy it that way. Actually, you will have a much better view on the YouTube channel than you would have being there in person.
That's kind of how I feel about professional sports in general.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's really and with the Squire narrating, so you'll know what you're watching.
Yes.
Which we always had trouble with that in the field at Ostrander because we didn't really have a good sound system or anything to be able to share that. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to actually have a much better experience with it. So we're going to have the joust. People ask a lot of questions about that. Like, doesn't it hurt? And Yeah,
Yes,
of course it does.
It does hurt. Yeah. Most of the answers are going to be what you think it is.
Exactly.
Like, yes, it does hurt. And is the armor expensive? Yes, it is expensive.
Yeah, you can't exactly go to Kohl's and get it at the clearance rack,
Right.
I wish, yeah.
Yeah.
The folks in Knights of the Rose have been doing this for a lot of years. They're very experienced. They participated in jousts and tournaments all over the country, and they participate in the Ohio Renaissance Fair and things like that. So these are folks that really know what they're doing.
Yes.
So,
Fun fact about that, and I don't know if we've explicitly mentioned this, but the Knights of the Rose is an all-female jousting troupe, which is certainly one of a kind. Even so much so that in traditional Renaissance festivals, it until recently hasn't been common to have female jousters participate in the Ohio Renaissance Festival. Lori Post, who has been our liaison and a representative of the Knights of the Rose, she works at the Ostrander branch. She let us know that her daughter was actually the very first woman who ever jousted at the Ohio Renaissance Festival.
that's amazing.
And she said that until last week, when her doctor said no more, Lori herself was the oldest female jouster in all the land.
Wow.
It is really phenomenal, this kind of gift that we have right here in our backyard.
It's amazing. And it's just part of the variety of people that we have who work for the library that you can tell there's so many different interests represented.
Who would have thought, right?
Exactly.
The oldest female jouster in all the land, right here in our Ostrander, in Ye Ostrander.
The old Ostrander, true enough. So that is tomorrow at 2 o'clock on the library's YouTube channel. You can come to the Facebook page. It'll direct you there.
Yep.
But it's not the only thing happening at the library this week because Summer Reading Club is going on, and we have several other things going on as well.
Yes, so much. Quick note, Monday, June 7th, Orange is having one of their last opportunities for the take-home craft bags. They are a get it while it's hot kind of thing. So we open at 9 on Monday, and when they're out, they're out.
So it's first come, first served on those?
First come, first serve. You don't RSVP. You just show up. If you want to call in advance, see if there's still any, if you're coming later in the day, that's a good idea too. But one of our favorite friends, Steve Harpster, he is a longtime friend of the library. He is doing a live virtual event on Tuesday, June 8th. It's actually interactive. It's at 6:30 p.m. You do need to register for it, so you get the Zoom link. He is teaching you how to draw animals with numbers and letters. So if you have even a kindergartner, maybe even a preschooler who knows how to draw their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, he's going to teach you how to turn those into animals.
Oh, how cool will that be? That's fun.
It's very fun.
So, and we also have 2 book groups this week. Both of them, Vicky from Orange is running these. One's Wednesday at 1 o'clock and one is Thursday at 6 o'clock. And for these, you don't have to read a specific book. It's going to be a sharing of what you've been reading recently to kind of discuss and maybe find some new interesting things to read during the book club.
That's my favorite kind of book club.
No
homework.
No homework, right?
The homework was already done.
I'd also like to just point out that this Thursday at 4 o'clock is the meeting of the Teen Advisory Board, which Becky Woodruff at the Orange Library is our teen services librarian there. She convenes that, and this is a great way for teens to tell us what they would like to see in the library. We use that advice very constantly. So and you don't have to be appointed to this board. This is open to teens who live anywhere in our district, are welcome to participate. This is a virtual meeting, so you don't have to come into the library or anything. But you also earn an hour of volunteer credit,
the service credit,
to be part of this, which you can use towards your high school requirements for volunteer service and everything too. So again, that's Thursday at 4 o'clock, and it'll be virtually. So I think you have to register. Do you have to register ahead for that? Or do you just come in for that?
Do need to register ahead for that one.
Go onto our website under events and go ahead and register for that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I want to point up is we have one more of our library staff trivia showdowns this week.
Oh, yes.
So, did I miss something that you wanted to talk about too?
The redistricting.
Oh, yes, our redistricting.
I know that's a hard one.
I get confused between that one because we're also having that presentation at the Rotary Club on Monday.
Oh, yes. So we were approached by 2 individuals who, Yvette, I'm going to say her name wrong, I'm sorry, Yvette Hanselman and Mindy Hedges, and they have a long history of working with the League of Women Voters, the kind of Ohio redistricting projects overall. They're going to do a presentation on how we as Ohioans can get involved in the redistricting process, and that's going to be on Wednesday, June 9th at 7 p.m. It is a virtual presentation, but it will be well worth your time if you have any interest in civic duty.
Yes, and it's going to be an interesting year because we lose a House seat, and they've just come to a deal with the census people in order to get the numbers we need to do the redistricting. So it's going to be an interesting process.
Yes,
So,
and this will be a political presentation.
Yes,
There's
right.
no politics involved, just fact.
Ohio voters voted twice to change the redistricting process to make it less partisan. So I think that's very interesting, too, that'll be part of this discussion, I'm sure. So anyway, we got a busy week coming up at the library. It's going to be a nice week. It's going to be a fun week. So make sure you take advantage of it. Thank you very much, Gage. It's always a pleasure to have you at the board there.
Absolutely.
Such confidence. And Nicole.
At least I wish.
I hope that yard sale in your neighborhood is very successful.
Yes, Carson Farms.
And we will see you tomorrow at the Joust, and we will see you in the stacks.